Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this podcast called Chatting. It's not Chatting in Cars anymore, is it? It's Chatting and Painting. Where's he gone? Rude. This is Chatting and Painting because I changed the name because I'm not always in a car. Okay, it's a podcast designed to talk about various topics that I've just basically written on Post-its. At the moment, I just pulled all my Post-its out the car and I have a few ideas, so you know, I'm gonna have to work through these. Interesting. There is a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics and I do swear as well, so if you don't want to hear someone swearing or talking about horrible situations they might have been in or they know about, I suggest turning off. I also apologise for my shit taste in music. Hopefully it's not too offensive. Frankie's going to be doing something. Whoa. Parkour probably. So he'll be in and out, you know, apparently licking his ass because I saw that in the last video. I'm like, anyway, he's got his bone, he's stoked. Yeah, he got a big boy bone this time because I was getting these little baby ones that are like this, and he goes through it in like an hour. Sitting there going, no, you need proper bones, don't you, baby? Yes, you do. Okay, so you're gonna settle. You got all your toys this time. He's got all his toys this time. He's got more than that actually. But he should be okay. You good? He's good. Anyway, the topic for today is leadership. Okay, all right. There are a few definitions of what you can use for leadership. Some people define it as, you know, forcibly taking control of a situation. I don't, unless it's an absolute emergency situation where, you know, people don't really have any other choice. We're currently seeing a lot of dictators at the moment running around rampant, using misinformation and miscommunication and propaganda to push an agenda, which is basically, for the most point, as far as I can see, given the age and sex and ethnicity, a bucket list from the 80s. So, you know, you wouldn't consider these ones leaders so much as enforcers, maybe, I don't know. I always thought there was more detail to the concept of leadership. I've talked about previous definitions of leadership. Hello, beautiful. Hello. He's gorgeous. Previous definitions where, you know, you've got to have a care and consideration for your people. It's got to be like a parent figure, but not like a patronizing parent figure, you know? It's extension of family. I mean, if you think about any community or society you live in, it's the people that are outside your door are just an extension of your family. They all come from the human race. We all are of the same species. We're all trying to get along and coexist together in a giant sphere where realistically, if we were out in nature or, you know, the field, we'd be screwed if we didn't work together. That's how we survived this long. So when it comes to leading those kinds of people, you need to see them as a kind of family, realistically. You start segregating people and pairing them against each other, it's just going to develop into a horrible, flies. It's not going to build cohesion, is it? It's going to be a shitstorm conflict all the fucking time. I mean, you ever seen kids fight all the fucking time? I'm a teacher. I've seen kids fight all the fucking time. It's horrible. They sit there and it's whinging and moaning and fighting and never get anywhere because 10 minutes, as soon as you settle them, they kick off again. And it's like, so in being a leader, you need to find ways to relax these tensions, I guess. And I suppose that comes with being benevolent, being considerate, making sure that their best interests are at the forefront. You want to look after them. It's kind of like parenting, but not really. Because you know they're capable, but sometimes they get a bit lost and confused. Maybe it's like parenting a dementia patient. I don't know. Hang on. You want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, they're not seeing the plan on the greater scale. So you need to, I don't don't know, I give them insight into what the plan is. I mean, transparency obviously is the best policy, I think, but at the same time, too much transparency and the people lose their fucking mind. They start overreacting, overthinking. And that's why we get things like the people behind the curtains, you know? We talk about political parties and things like that, and what the real agenda of the politics is pushed by, you know, participants working for the people behind the curtain, if you're into conspiracy theory or anything like that, I suppose. I don't know if it's real or not, so don't quote me on that. But, you know, think about it. How many politicians are working for a group of people, even though they claim to be the forerunner of the group as a leader? They're still running under the guise of someone else's hand or, you know, needs. And it's supposed to be, like in a democracy or even in a communism, actually, it's meant to be the needs of the people come first because we've chosen you. You are here to be a voice for us. We need your help in organizing everything around us so that it works and we're functional and safe and nobody gets hurt and everybody can coexist together peacefully. And that idea is a thread that runs through the majority of political organizations, whether it's communism, democracy, even fascism to a certain degree. There's the assumption that there's this one leader who can direct traffic efficiently and get the job done, and that is the primal leader. You know, he's the emperor in this Warhammer universe, that gets the job done. And he makes sure everybody's safe. Now, that of course runs riot when you get fascism in a negative light, where it's a dictatorship and it's working against the needs and wants and desires of the people because you're just controlling the masses into doing what you want them to do. It's manipulation. It's not in the best interest of the people. And that's why we see fascists in such a negative light, because in theory, what was meant to be, I mean, if you think about it, like in the old days, the royal family were a bit fascist in a horrible way. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, when you got to take them down shit kind of way. I mean that in a, there was one supreme ruler who told everyone what to do. And of course, that's where we get things like democracy, because we all turned around and went, wait a minute, what if they're not working for us in our best interest? And that's how we developed politics out of that. I don't think they have a chance to be fascist anymore. I think, honestly, if they even tried it, someone would lose their shit. But the idea of the leader is to be a guidance, a counselor, a person who's saying, I know where we're going, I've got to drive purpose, this is in our best interests, we all work together and I'll take the lead because we can go that way and that's good for us. Okay, so that's the idea behind it, but at the same time you always get someone who fucking perverts it because they've got, you know, greed or ego working against the whole organization, which is why I get a bit weird about people who call themselves communists these days. And they're not acting like communists. Marx and Engels would roll around in their grave if they knew what the fuck was going on with communist China and Russia right now. I'm going, this is completely against, you know. And I find it weird as well because you've got like the Bolsheviks who took power from the Romanovs and the Tsars through aggressive, violent means in order to, you know, supposedly dispel some kind of fascist dictatorship in the form of the Romanov royal family, right? Because they weren't looking after the people properly. It was a military coup. But at the same time, they've taken what they supposedly despised and then just reformatted it and relabeled it into something just as fucking bad. It hasn't changed. It's just been rehashed and relabeled. So I don't know why they call themselves communist. I don't believe that they are working in the interests of the people, because there's so much, like, you got to keep, what do they call them, oligarchs? You got to get this you got to get this punters in. What do they call them when they're gambling? The punters, the sponsors. You got to keep the sponsors happy, and they're funding the government seemingly, which is in itself not a good idea, because then it's based on like trying to negotiate politics in their own financial benefits. They're not actually looking after the people. They're trying to create policies and sway politics in a way that benefits them financially in order to hold power over government and the people, which is not good, not healthy. You'll see your people suffering because they won't have things like healthcare, adequate shelter, or food, which is why the economy took so long to fucking climb back after the Cold War, because it wasn't for the people. They claimed it was, but the people were getting screwed over by the war, before the war, after the war. But it was the, I want to say oligarchs, who were claiming we're doing this for you because, you know, but realistically, they were doing it to line their pockets. And they're still doing it now, although they're finding out that war is expensive. I have a strong feeling you've just figured out how expensive it can be. And for all the prestige and the glory you think you're going to get for it, there is always a cost. And for those who claim to be communists, you're actually quite capitalist in your thinking. So it's like, it's a bit of hypocrisy going on. I'm sitting there thinking, you sure you still want to be communist when you redistribute all your wealth amongst the people who have none? Or do you still want to be, you know, like wealthy and sitting in the background directing traffic, you know, which is very anti-communist if you think about it. Very capitalist. Strange people that they are. But, you know, it's all free, open shit, isn't it? No one's sitting there saying, I've got this down exactly right, I am this or I am that. Everybody's sort of freeballing and hoping it sticks. Everybody's got their interpretation of what it should be. Whatever political agenda they're pushing. And even then, it's always a load of dice, isn't it? I mean, no one's really following the rules. So if you're hoping to, I don't know, sorry, Frankie's just wandered off with his bone again. Weird. So if you're hoping to run for politics or something like that, try and have a clear and concise idea of what kind of a leader you want to be. People do tend to revolt against bad leaders. We've seen it politically, historically, for centuries. We've had so many wars about bad leaders getting pushed over, or like military coups occurring where the people just got fed up with the bullshit, lies, and they just instigated a complete takeover. It's strange that, you know, people don't actually try to, you know what it is? I think it's the faking. The faking gets me, where they will tell people that they're one thing without actually living it, and then assume people will just go with it and not actually notice that it's changing. That's what bugs me. It's like that we didn't live up to the promises we made, but it's okay now because we're all sucked in together. And it's like, well, we're not all sucked in together because you are an anomaly, which has created a problem, which is now affecting everyone else. You're the outlier in this trend and contingency plan. So, you know, you can always get voted out, ethically. Unethically, there are other things you can do, like the Myanmar coup. I don't know what's going on with those guys lately. It's crazy. You go to Myanmar, apparently it's near enough empty. I don't know what's going on. I worry for people. But let's get out of the politics area, because otherwise I'm going to get in trouble. She said what? I said nothing. I am nothing. I know nothing. The only thing we know is we know nothing at all. So crates. If you're talking about leadership in terms of group cohesion, just general social group cohesion, you would still want to follow the basic principles of being someone who can provide for the group, who has a plan, who has a good plan though, not just I've got an idea, let's go and do some stuff. It's got to be a plan with benefits for the group. You've got to find some kind of approach that will make sure that they don't get screwed over in the end. And ultimately, you need to protect your people. No one in their right mind should be following someone who will harm them. And I don't think ethically anyone would. It would be ridiculous to follow someone into danger because, you know, I mean, and that's why they're not so open about it, because, you know, it's just, who's going to believe you if you suddenly say, hey, I've got an idea, let's go and I mean, if someone suggested let's go and invade someone because we're bored and it's the weekend, I mean, how many people jump on board? It's like, well, first of all, they're going to be questioning why and what else am I doing this weekend, and various other things would probably not. It's like, why would you be doing that? Why do we need to invade someone this weekend? So you'd want to make sure that your people are covered and that they're informed, there's transparency, and nobody's just going off on a fool's quest where, you know, it's someone's idea of a good time but not really benefiting others in any kind of a way. Unfortunately, we also live in a society where you have to consider what it looks like to the outside, because we do exist in a world where people are frowned upon if they don't replicate behaviors and traits which are norms and values they find around themselves. So if you're doing some odd, shady shit, people really aren't going to want to follow you, because it's the mass consensus that decide realistically what plans go ahead. And things like what we consider crimes are generally shut down because they don't benefit the group in the whole. I mean, if suddenly someone decided it's absolutely fine to go around and steal cars, people are going to crack the shits. If a leader turned around and said, I'm legalizing stealing other people's cars, people get pissed off because it's their cars that get stolen, isn't it? It's not a case of you're just stealing the leader's cars. Everyone's car gets affected. We all get fucked over for this. Why should we listen to you? Why should we follow you? You've got to make sure that the end result benefits the people that you are supposedly looking after. And in that way, you do pose yourself as a parent to them, providing, caring, ensuring that they've got a nurturing, warm environment, they've got a roof over their head, that they're looked after. Not just because you stand to gain something from it. I mean, these politicians, for example, are well paid. But if it's just a social group where it's just your friends, you should still be considerate of the people. Maybe you have a sense of kinship with them. Maybe you've been friends forever. Maybe you've got similarities. You've got likes and values in line with each other that align together. You've got morals that align together. And that's why you have an allegiance to this group. And that's why you want the best for them. You got to make sure that it's sustainable, that it's not just a whim that you can just do and then I'm bored, I'm going to fuck off and make my own group because you're boring. There's so many facets to leadership that a lot of people might not consider, because it's the, you know, some people claim that taking things by force is the best way. I mean, it's a bit too much yang and not enough yin, really, isn't it? If I go in and take it, then that's it, and ultimately it fails because, you know, force just breeds insurgency. I was sitting there watching. No, I'm an observer of human behavior. I've got a degree in behavioral analysis, and I love watching, like people watching. I like seeing how they interact even in social settings. I had a field day in the last social group I was sitting in because I could see what they were doing. And I'm sitting there going, I can see where this is going. I can see what this is doing. Should I choose to participate? Is this where my morals lie? Obviously it didn't because I left. But at the same time, I could see how the behaviors of individuals within the group played on each other's allegiances. And I was observing, particularly the men, funny enough. And I was looking at the girls going, oh, come on, you can do better than this. But I was also oh, hang on a sec. Sorry, had to go and run into something. I'm currently uploading, I'm exporting, uploading, and making podcasts at this point. So it's a little bit all over the place. My computer just decided to turn on one of the ones that I was uploading. Weirdly. Somebody's playing with my electronics. Return to sender, bitch. But at the same time, you want to understand that the people you're leading have their own needs and values, and they need to be looked after, which is why you're getting so many problems with... I wasn't even talking about politics, was I? I was talking about people. All right, let's go back. So I was watching the boys in the group, and I was watching how their version of masculinity is actually interacting with each other. And I'm sitting there thinking, the dynamics of this group probably doesn't lead to anything, because this is all a facade. I mean, honestly, it's all a facade. They're all in their early 20s. It's all puffed up bullshit where they all think they're great. I mean, that won't fade until they're well into their 30s, late 30s, maybe 40s. And they start realizing not as great as they thought they were. And whilst they've got the, naivety of youth on their side, and they probably should be working on more stable things for their future, the behaviors that they were demonstrating showed me that this is a very strange group. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what you're hoping to achieve by these behaviors, but there's nothing stable, and so I left. But the way they interact with each other, and there's an ongoing thing where they've always got to compete with each other for, I'm assuming, mates, like females, if they're straight. This was a mix, so it was a mix of bisexuals and heterosexual. So you're competing with mates. You're competing against guys, sometimes to get guys. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's not the straightforward heterosexual interactions I was assuming where it was puffed up pride and shows of masculinity are proven by strength and chest hair. There was a lot more nuance to it. And I was watching and I'm watching, and they're not very nice people. And in terms of leadership, I pegged one person as possibly the leader of the group. But it was only because he was a more benevolent leader and he was more quiet than the others. The younger ones, were more inclined to do stupid things, what I would deem stupid things, in a loud way. And to be honest, this leader, who I thought maybe was the leader, I could be wrong, of course. I could have absolutely misjudged the situation, and I have been known to do that with the ASD thing going on. But he just, it was a strong presence and not a case of I need to shout and bellow. I would rather be the quiet guy in the background that just stands up and, and lets it be known that this is happening. There was no shouting. There's no prostrating. Am I thinking of human body parts now? And I appreciated that more in terms of leadership because it meant there was less liability and risk in the group. With this person potentially as the leader. The louder they are, the more flamboyant, the more they are there for showmanship and look what I can do. The more risk there is of failing. You've just drawn a crowd to watch your own execution, essentially. Which is probably not a smart thing to do. But some people are like that. Some people think that if they take the stage and if they shout loud enough, clap their arms, people are going to love them. It's like, that's weird. But I liked that he was sort of quiet leadership, but that's just my own preference. So I think there should be some kind of calmness to the person who's trying to take the lead as well. If you're watching anything like the Trump rallies, people were losing their fucking mind. It was like, I questioned their sanity after watching them. I'm going, are you sure you want these people anywhere near you as a leader? Because they're a bit mental. So the way they're reacting to this person who's standing on a stage because he's shouting and being sarcastic and shit. I'm sitting there going, when shit goes down, do you really want a sarcastic dude up your ass telling you, well, you shouldn't have fucking done that sort of thing? Or do you want someone who's more of a kind, calm, considerate person who's, got your back? And that's why I found like there was a stark contrast between like Obama, who was calm and quiet, and compared to Trump, who's sarcastic, wannabe businessman, jock, wannabe. I would love to see if it was in any way measurable, which one of those two did more credit to the country than each other, Which one of them was better in terms of leadership? It's odd. You have to have some sense of leadership in your life, even when it comes to basic stuff like just existing in the workplace. You need to use your sense of initiative. And as a teacher, I need to be able to sort of lead a class. There's no point if they look to me and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I defer obviously to my higher ups, which are like deputies, who should have some grasp of what content the whole, collaborative project is about. So, I'm sorry, I'm probably boring you. So, what do we need to be a good leader? Don't be a dick. Feed your people. I mean, we could talk about Machiavelli, which I have read, and I was given his birthday. So, I feel obliged to have some kind of insight into this, but at the same time, it's like, just don't be a dick. I don't understand why people assume that people who are loud and flamboyant are good leaders. I think it's something to do with confidence, although you can easily mistake stupidity for confidence. Just because they're loud doesn't mean they're smart. And that'll show up in what they give to their people as an end result product. I would rather have a calm, civilized person, and it might just be my British upbringing, who knows what they're doing, can provide for their people as a father figure or a mother figure. Mother figure better, probably, right? There seems to be a more vested interest in female leaders at this point. We've seen what the men can do. Let's now see what the women can do, please. I would rather a calm environment where we know that we're not running into threats because we've got to prove some kind of dick measuring piss contest, It's like, I'd rather not start a war just because you're feeling infertile. Can we just work on the economy? Dinner's at 8. We've got to prep. So, I don't know, maybe that's a negative stereotype. Women in the kitchen. I microwave, I don't cook. Takes too long. I ain't got the patience for it. So what's a good leader? I mean, you've got to be kind, you've got to have high morals. And you've got to have morals which reflect the group you are trying to lead, obviously. Otherwise, they're not going to listen. If you sit there and say, I'm a megalomaniac with, homicidal tendencies, I think it's a good time I run for Parliament. They're probably going to go, no. That, and he's got a bumper sticker on his car for someone else. Bastard. It's always something menial. Stop eating the box. That's a packing box. We don't eat that one. Come on, eat your ducky. He's got his ducky. He's got his ducky. He's got 2 duckies. He's spoiled. Look, it's this one. He's got one of them on the mat. Screaming ducky. He's supposed to be eating that. Go and eat that. Where's your bone? Sitting there eating a packing box instead. I give you all these toys. Why are you eating a packing box? He's got bones, he's got ears, he's got 50 pig ears there that are pre-bought in bulk. Knowing that you liked them. He's eating a packing box. Stop it. Stop it. Painful child. Oi, what's that? Penny arse. Don't have kids, people. Don't have kids. They eat packing boxes. I never did though. I ate sand. Did I? I don't know. I remember laying face down in sand a lot. Up until I was about 12, actually. I was grounding. Sure I was. I will emphasize that transparency needs to be the absolute. I don't like the conniving thing. Some people take the conniving, the manipulation, and the game playing as Machiavellian traits, which, make you smarter or more clever than your people that you're trying to lead, but essentially you're misleading them and you're lying to them. I don't agree with the Machiavellian traits. He made those assumptions and observations in satire. He was saying, as a piss take, our leaders are assholes. Look at this. But he worded it in such a way that would be flattering to, I think it was a king or a prince at the time. Oh, the prince. So it would be the prince. At the time. Because he was a sarky little bitch. But, you read it and you're sitting there going, you can tell this is like sarcastic. I'm going, he's a sarky. And you ever looked at the picture of Machiavelli as well? You can tell he's a sarky little bitch. He was displeased with what was going on there. And he was probably making it a point to word it in such a way that would try and be flattering, because in case he didn't want to get his head cut off or something like that. But he also wanted to keep his position in court. So of course he's going to be a bit of a suckhole. But at the time you wonder if the kings or leaders were that particularly bright that they caught on that it was sarcastic. It's funny though. I think you've got to have a sense of humour. You definitely got to have a sense of humour. Oh shit. Might need to put that on the rack because it's getting crowded. Can I make it? Ugh. Nice. Watch out. Nice. What are you doing, Frank? Yeah. Sort of. I don't even know how much time I got left. 7 minutes? Jesus, that went quick. So what can we take away from this? If you're going to try and lead a people, be benevolent. Don't just say you are, actually be it. Give a shit about what they're going through. Don't just, take pay and prestige and say it's good enough. You're too dumb to rule yourself, so I have to. They're gonna take offense. You actually do have to have a vested interest in your people, and the best thing you can do is actually be one of them to understand what the fuck they're going through. Don't just assume because you were given a position where you've opened curtains your entire fucking life and turned up and everybody celebrated that you have any fucking insight into what these people are going through in a day. You assume, because you've seen the polished version of their reality, that you know what they need. You don't know what they need, and better off you probably don't even fucking care what they need, considering you've got your needs met straight up. You just don't know. You've got no grasp of what the reality of the situation actually is. That's what bugs me when you get celebrities walking into these arenas of hospitals and schools and all that shit going, well, this is important. It's like, well, is it? Do you actually live it? Do you know what it is? Have you lived it? Do you know what these people go through in a day? So you must have some kind of attachment and grip on reality that these people that you are supposedly leading and caring for are actually going through by maybe possibly living amongst them. Not in an elevated status where you've got money to hide behind or any kind of prestige where no one's going to pick on you because you're famous, but because you've actually lived down the grind. I would rather see someone come up through the ghetto and to be prime minister or president than someone who's fucking gone to Harvard or some shit. And it's like, you have no fucking idea what these people go through. And these people are in the majority. You're like top 10, 5%. You don't know what the fuck's going on with these people. You've got no attachment to the people at all. Because you've had that distance. And it's the same with any social group. If you're going to try and understand what's going on with the social groups, you need to understand what their needs are and how you can meet them as a leader. Not just lord over them because you got my car is more expensive than yours and therefore you should deify me because I got nicer stuff. It's not that. You need to be more humane when you approach people. So I don't even know when we're going to start doing that, because the politicians, for example, telling people that they understand what's going on. We've got the royal family saying, oh, we're just like you. And it's like, fucking or not. Stop lying. Fucking lie. And it's all part of the PR machine for both parties. You've got friends in the last social group I was in lying about who they are and what they do and what they're willing to provide. And you sit there and think, when push comes to shove, you can't back that up and you're lying. So it's like, I don't believe you, it's not credible, so how can I follow you as a leader? Trauma bonding your people to try and get them to follow you, which is essentially what they're doing with all this, wars going off right now. You've got a bunch of people who are invading other people. And he's It's Russia again, I'm sorry. I know, I keep circulating back to this because I'm still trying to understand what the fuck is going on. He's misinforming his people. He's telling his people that, I think it was first of all that he was going against Nazis or something in Ukraine. That was one of the stories circulating. I'm sitting there going, well, first of all, no. Because they're not really around anymore. And if they are, they're in the real minority, not even a political party. That's just misinformation. And he just keeps sort of breadcrumbing and info dumping and trauma bonding these people to try and support him and promote some kind of structuralist intent and support to encourage like the invasion of places like Ukraine. That's just one example. I don't even know what other misinformation the other leaders, so-called leaders, are giving their people to sort of back up their intentions and actions. It just seems really fucked up. So the best thing you can do in those regards, if you are one of the people that are being led, is go and do your own research, because I swear to God, these people have got their own agendas. They don't give a shit. It's like they're well protected. That's another thing. It's like, that bugs me as well. It's like when these leaders make these assertions and claims and then bail on them because, you know, shit gets rough. Trump riots, the march on Capitol Hill and all that stuff, he pumped them up, and you know he did, whether he admits it or not. He pumped them up. He knew how they'd react. He's got a bunch of people working in PR that knew how those people would react. Not one of those fuckers turned around and said, hey, no. Everyone went, yeah, go on then, say it. And so what happened was they marched, and then of course people got injured and stuff like that. It's like, why? You knew what, you have degrees in this kind of stuff. It's like you have PhDs in understanding how people will react to your piece of PR, and yet you backed him up and let him do it. It's like, what is going on here? What agenda is that? So you got to be careful of that as well. And they just, as soon as he knew he'd stirred up the people, he bailed on them. So the people got hurt, not him. That's cowardice. That's not even sticking up with your people. So you got to be mindful of that. Don't be one of those people that start some shit and then run. It's bailing on your people. It's cowardly. If you're going to say something, stand on it. If you're going to assert something, if you're going to send your people somewhere, make sure you head there first. I mean, I'd never send anyone into anything if I hadn't gone there myself. I mean, I don't talk about teaching without actually having lived it. I know what it is. I know what this is. I've lived it 14, 15 years. I don't walk into a school and say, oh, this is very important, so we should carry this on. Oh, look, I'm bringing awareness to it. It's like, get out of my school. You're not real. You don't understand what's going on. Get out. Stop lying. Stop trying to get more money off us. It's bullshit. That's why I don't like celebrities, because they're not real. It's a fake flag you're flying, and it's usually, you know, double back, someone else's flag on the other side. It's like, it sounds like it's this, but realistically it's this. It's like, with our powers combined, we can fuck the masses. So you got to be careful as a leader. Be aware of what you're sending out there in the world, and make sure that it is in the best interest of your people, even if it's just a small social group. Make sure that the morals that you're trying to, I don't know, push, but you can't push people to do things. You should always be sort of modeling it yourself. Don't put it on the table if you're not willing to do it yourself, because you can't back it up because you're pussy or something. You're gonna find people will abandon you because it's ridiculous. Strangely enough, a lot of people will lie about stuff like getting into their office or whatever they want to do, and then wonder why people get angry afterwards when they don't follow up with what they said they were going to do. It's very strange. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it there because I've got a few things drying and I've got to circulate a few more things. I don't know if that was an interesting podcast or a boring one. I'm used to driving. My brain seems to flow better. I'll do another one hopefully, and I'll chat to you. Ooh, that's noisy. I'll chat to you in another podcast on another topic, hopefully.